Good Wednesday morning. I'm being long-winded this morning. I'm very sloppy. I'm sorry, but I do the best I can, okay? But these are just my reflections. But you know what's interesting about it? The next day, today's the 26th, it's St. Timothy and St. Titus, okay? And normally I would say, actually, I don't know anything about them, okay? But when I think of St. Timothy, I think of the parish St. Tim's, where I came here in 1971, and now St. Mark. It became St. Mark's Parish when the three parishes were united. But I think of St. Timothy's because I see that's where I learned and that's where I experienced on a really deep level the body of Christ as the living faith, the living church. And I think of St. Tim's. The nickname for St. Tim's was St. Timothy's. I just did it, St. Tim's, or colloquially, even more, Timmy's. We always called it Timmy's or St. Tim's. Nobody called it St. Timothy's. They called it St. Tim's or Timmy's. And I was in that Timmy's that I learned what the faith was about. I learned the life of the faith. I'll give you some examples. These are some of the folks that know me a long time know these examples. But I remember when I got here, I didn't know anything about a parish. I was never active in one as a kid, nothing. I just needed a roof over my head while I went to grad studies. Father Cronin, Joe Cronin, was the pastor, and he said to me, "Dad, there's nothing in the rectory for you. Make friends with the people of the parish if you want companionship." So there was a bunch of guys outside. I looked out the window, and they were Little League players, little kids, and they were being coached by their fathers. And I went out and I met them, and I met Dick Heinrichs at that moment. I remember when I bumped into him, bigger than life. He said, "Hi, I'm Dick Heinrichs." And I remember an immediate friendship formed. His son Kurt was on it. It was second grade. This was 50 years ago, okay? And they were playing, okay? And I began to see the life of the faith with fathers coaching their sons, daughters with their Girl Scouts and brownies. I saw another thing. I used to sit in the window. I lived on the second floor, and I'd look out the window and look down onto the parking lot of Timmy's. And I saw guys playing high school level, playing street hockey. And I used to go out there and watch them play, looking down at them. And that was the life of the parish. It wasn't just the Eucharist. It was kids, 15 years old, playing hockey, street hockey, on roller skates, right under the window. See? Yeah, I saw that. And what I was seeing was the life of the parish. See? One of the most profound moments, and it goes back to Dick Heinrichs, Dick and Barb and their kids, Rick, Kurt, and Kathy. And that was this. I understood how the faith was transmitted. Now I'll show it to you. I'll give you an example. It was a very telling. It's communion, and I'm giving out communion, body of Christ, body of Christ. And people are coming up. Here comes Dick. And he's a big fellow, okay? Behind him is Kathy, maybe 5 years old, 6, not even that. I'd say 4 or 5. Nah, just about 4. She's a little pipsqueak. She's tugging behind him as he comes up to communion. And I saw the traditio, the tradition. She follows him up, you see. And he receives communion. And in a sense, she does with him, as it were. And one day, just a few years later, she will come up and receive communion in a little white dress. And she will grow in the faith. The faith was transmitted without words spoken, by the example of a parent, through the love of a parent, the loving of the parent and the faith of the parent encapsulated in that love gives that faith to that child. I learned all of that. I knew faith isn't transmitted through my sermons or anything like that. Maybe hopefully reinforced to some degree. It's by parental love, handed on. That's the life of the faith, you see. That's St. Tim's to me. When I saw, it's the little people of God. For every educated person, and comparably educated to myself, there was 100 that weren't. These guys are working steps. These men and women were working steps. They're the heart of the faith, the heart of the church. Hard-working people dedicated to their families, coaching all around the clock, running meetings, men's club, ladies' fidelities, you name it. They were engaged in the life of the faith. They created a community of belief. You could feel it, you could taste it. Because besides, we also had some pretty good ball teams, I have to say. We produced a couple of nationally ranked soccer players, the Bursics. That's true. I remember one time when I was in Louisville, when we were watching television, somebody put on a soccer game, and it was professional. It was the New York team, I think it was. And the goalie was a Bursic. And it was the guy, he was a member of my parish. He was a little boy in my parish. That's a true story. I think we had some very good athletes in our parish, especially soccer. First, the Gavains and the Bursics were absolutely first rate. First rate, okay? I mean on a national scale. But they were the stars, as it were. I'm just thinking everybody was in the game together. It was a community of faith and love. It really was. And our dances and our parties, well, we won't go into any of that, but it was fun. Oh my God, we had such a good time. I remember the first dance we had. I never wanted, it was outdoors. It was an outdoor dance. God, we filled the parking lot. It was just so much fun. So much fun. Yeah. It was something. Yeah. Life of the parish. See, for the first time in my life, I saw it from within, as it were, both a part-time, very part-time pastor, but I really was a member of the parish. I identified with the people, not with the clergy as such. Because in some ways I was like them. In this regard, I was on my way. I was not the pastor. I was just living there. I didn't have Father Cronin or Father Johnson's authority or any of that, or their important role. I was just a tag-along. But I also was a student like the kids. I was a student. I was still on the way. And I fell in love with the parish and the people of the parish. I've been there 50 years, 5 generations now. 5, St. Mark's. And I'll give you one more for the road. Well, we put the 3 parishes together, which I got to say I was very opposed to, but that's okay. One bishop called it a debacle. He was right about that, actually. It was a forced marriage. It wasn't thought out well at all. Not by us, by the Archbishop, but the prior bishop. That's a true story, whatever it's worth. But whatever the case may be, I think, it was, when we chose a name, we chose St. Mark. And I thought that's a good name for us. Why? He's the first and the most basic of the Gospels, just like us. Nothing spectacular. We're not a mystical group like John, St. John, okay, the gospel writer, John the Evangelist, see? And maybe not a great storyteller like Luke, or a theologian, a biblical theologian like St. Matthew. We're working stiffs. St. Mark's, we preach a basic gospel, but it's the gospel of affection and friendship. It's the gospel, it's the truest gospel. It's the gospel of the street. It's the gospel of the ordinary. That's Timmy's. That's St. Mark's. Hey, I'm glad we chose the name St. Mark. We are not highfalutin. We are not the great mystic theologians of the church. We're just simple guys, just getting the one foot in front of the other. Me too. No better, no worse than anyone else. Just walking through life together with affection, love, mutual trust, and faith. Every day, one foot in front of the other. It's the life of the church. In my view, it's the most fundamental life of the church. It's the true fundamental community of faith, the little guy. St. Mark, the little gospel. We are the little guy. Like Timmy's, St.